Hi everybody, it is Pabi Mawela, your sizzling host on the Connect HR podcast, Connect HR Hangouts. Please tune in on this episode as we will be giving you our top 10 sizzling moments. Love to see you there. Hello everybody, welcome back to Connect HR Hangouts. It's your sizzling favorite host, Pabi Mawela. We are back with yet another banging episode. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for your loyalty and thank you so much for commenting, for liking, for sharing. We appreciate you. The house rules, please comment, share, like, subscribe, and click on the notification button to receive notifications every time we upload a new episode. Today, I am with a team member of mine, my gang. Hi, Yolanda.
Hi, Pabi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Introduce yourself. Who are you and why are you here?
I'm Yolanda Msimango. I'm the payroll specialist at Connect HR, and I'm just here to share the top 10 moments with you.
Amazing. Top 10 moments, as she said. That's what we're doing today. We love and appreciate all the guests that have graced us with their presence. We just want to say thank you. You didn't have to, but you did. You came here, you shared your knowledge. Everyone loved it, and we are ranking all the 10 episodes that we've had so far. At number 10, we have got Thobela Tabula for the most innovative episode. We also want to explore what the opportunities are in the agricultural sector because our audience, the age range is from 18 to 35, which comprises of the youth of South Africa. And we want to understand from you, what are the opportunities in the agricultural sector, and are there any opportunities for any, let's say, unemployed people that are sitting at home? What are the opportunities?
The opportunity that I will talk about is around agro-processing.
Okay.
So for instance, if you've got cows that are producing milk,
Yeah.
you don't have to sell milk as it is. You can add value to the milk and produce yogurt and other products that are dairy related.
Correct.
And make more money. There are opportunities now, instead of producing maize, which is sort of, you don't reap serious financial returns by selling maize. Everybody sells that.
Yeah.
There are opportunities for your high value products, such as garlic, ginger, blueberries, and soybeans and so on.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have seen your soya milks in our retail shops.
True.
So if you produce soybeans, you can also produce soy milk and you make more money. But there are companies that have dedicated themselves to support young black farmers.
Yes.
For instance, Nedbank and the Motsepe Foundation have allocated serious money, over 200 million. That is targeted towards your black, emerging youth, of farmers. And it's essentially like a grant. It's not a loan where you go to a bank and so on.
Yes.
It's a grant. And what is nice about outfits like that, it's not like in government whereby you go to the Department of Agriculture. I'm not saying people mustn't go there, but if you go to those outfits or those arrangements, the time frame to get money is shorter than going to the Department of Agriculture and so on, where you wait and so on. So there are opportunities like that. There are companies, for instance, like Agri-SA, which I used to be part of their committee. They are also steeped to the idea of saying, how do we absorb young people who are passionate about this? and connect them to the market, land access, funding, the market, innovative irrigation systems, and so on. Because what we have seen in the past few years, giving someone a farm, let's say the Department of Agriculture gives you 2 hectares, without access to finance, buying a tractor, getting money to pay your workers, fertilizers, buying seed, chemicals to kill all these things that will affect the quality of your produce.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, but on top of that, you need to be mentored by someone who's in the industry. Say, no, this is not how you plant this. This is what you do so that you can be able to penetrate, for instance, a market such as Woolworths, because the standards are very high, or a Pick and Pay and so on. So those are the opportunities that young people can exploit, but you don't have to start big.
Yeah.
You can start literally less than a hectare and start with your poultry farming with 1,000 rands. You buy sort of 50 chicks and then you breed these things and then you start selling into your community. And then you start growing your business. So there are many, many opportunities, but
At number 9, we have Leslie Ann Fansel for the most eye-opening episode.
To see more from corporates as an NGO owner, what would you like to see more as a way for them to assist NGOs that are doing such great work like yourself?
Well, the corporates, if they understood the real needs at community level, for example, we've gathered all this data and able to actually show where money really needs to be invested. We could then bring together corporates who have aligned strategies in ecosystems. So, for example, if we were working in Alex, for example, we would get the corporates in Santon to look at what their strategies are. So we could get a construction company and an investment bank and a IT company to start looking at Alex. So let's refurbish the youth development center. Let's get computers in. Let's get let's get them connected, etc. So we could start then aligning different focus areas into one ecosystem.
And at number 8, we've got Sidwell Bombe for the most informative episode. So please give us a little bit of a background about Connect HR, how it started, and your involvement in the journey.
Okay, so how it started out, it's quite an interesting story. So we were doing, your leave reports through an Excel spreadsheet, and one would sort of have to remember certain things at certain dates. So it was quite tedious. And as a business owner myself, we always out there trying to get more business.
Yeah.
So there isn't really time to sit down and then do the admin work, and as small as we are, we want a tight budget for resources. So through that journey with the owner of Connect HR, we sort of sat down and we're like, how can we solve this?
How can we make things easier?
Yeah, how can we make things easier? Because we were just looking at our own case study and we were also looking at other companies out there that are in a similar situation as us. And I think that was how the concept to build Connect HR came up, where we said we need something that is solutions driven. It bridges the gap from a payroll, from a leave management. It's all in a pocket. It's all in your pocket.
Yeah.
Because with Connect HR, it's so simple. It's on your phone.
Yeah.
My employees don't have to send emails to me anymore.
Yeah.
They can just log in. They can just apply for leave. I can accept. I can reject. I can give a message. Payroll is further simplified for us because it's all in a click of a button.
Click of a button.
Thank you.
You're not the first person to say that, and people don't believe us. You just click and your leave is approved. Your leave is declined. Please, if you haven't signed up, try .connecthr.co.za. And because this system is fairly new, but actually it's not that new anymore. We are almost 1 year old.
Yes.
What are the challenges that you face when developing such a system?
I think I'd answer that question by starting with that in development. Development's like construction.
Yeah.
The plan is everything. Okay, it's something that we call a life cycle, right? It's planning, so it's basically scoping, planning, execution of the product,
Yeah.
testing, and so forth. So what we found challenging, it's the scoping phase,
Okay.
where we need to understand what element goes where. You know, the case study. You know, you sort of have to put yourself in the shoes of a client.
Yes.
Because remember, you're trying to come up with a solution. So it has to make sense first for you.
Yeah.
Then you can execute. I think that process, it's the one that's quite difficult. Once you've got a plan in place, the development then becomes easy. The enhancements, things just falling into place.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think for me, that's the challenging
The
part.
scoping.
But it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, the interactions, the debates. And the one thing that I'd like to mention is you get to learn a lot. When I started Connect HR, my knowledge on payroll was this much.
I can imagine.
It was limited.
I think
but-
both of us, yeah.
Exactly. So we had to do a lot of research. We had to go out there, speak to accountants, speak to people that are in the HR space.
Exactly.
Try to understand what works, what doesn't work, how can we simplify. And I think that process on its own, it is quite tough, but it's fun.
I love that. I love how you answered.
At number 7, we have Pabelo Diaho for the most influential episode.
There's a 6-step process that happens, okay? And in the 6-step process, when we're winding up at the estate, this happens whether or not you have a will,
Okay.
right? So number 1 is SARS. So obviously SARS will do their last SARS calculation. They'll do an estate duty calculation, and they'll also do a capital gains calculation, right? So that's basically tax, all right? So tax needs to be payable. The second part is debt. So debt doesn't go with you in the grave, right? So if you've got a clothing account, a car, credit card, whatever debt you've accumulated, should anything happen to you and you pass away, that debt has to be paid from your estate,
Okay.
right? So, yeah, so that's point number 2. So normally with debts, you look at life cover, the credit cards have, policies that should anything happen to you, the clothing accounts,
Yes.
should anything happen to you, that's paid up, right? Number 3 is the legal fees. So we call it costs of dying. But the legal fees are something that we always get stuck at.
Okay.
Because there's no money when you're winding up estates, all right? Like I mentioned now, to open up a trust for a minor child, to transfer property from your name into your child's name, there's executive fees to be paid. So, and there's a whole lot more. I mean, we advertise your death in the government gazette, we pay the masters of high court. So, for an average person that is working, I don't know what average is, but for the average person to wind up in a state could be anything from 200K and up, right?
Yeah.
But now you've left to your child a house, and obviously life happens. We don't know when that's going to happen, but by the time your child gets his inheritance, we either had to sell your car to pay for legal fees, or some people, it's so drastic that we have to actually sell the asset that they were trying to leave because, there's things like living expenses, rates and taxes, So it's important to do financial planning properly, right? But starting with the will, and then we come with the financial planning, because that then makes, you a better employee, for your workplace.
Yeah.
Especially when you know that you've got peace of mind, and that's that. So, but that's legal fees,
Yeah.
right? That's step number 3. Step number 4 is things like court orders. So if you're paying spousal maintenance, child maintenance, we consider that when we're winding up your estate. Number 5 is actually quite a tricky one, but a lot of people are having more information around this. Is traditionally married.
Okay.
Obviously, if you're married, then that's good, thumbs up. But if you're married in community of property, then should anything happen to you, you automatically know that 50% of your estate is your spouse's, right? But now, when you are traditionally married, meaning lobola, or they came back, they left 2,000 rand saying, hey, Buffett, I'm coming back, to do the right thing. Should anything happen to you, you are that basically means that you are married in community of property.
Yeah.
Right? So that's obviously customary marriage, which is recognized in South Africa. So the marriage part gets people because they don't actually understand that just because I've been lobolad, I'm actually leaving 50% to my spouse.
Yeah.
Right? Whether you've broken up or you haven't broken up, it's just one of those things that affect the financial planning or the will. All right, so we have to look at the will, which is the marriage, which is step number 5. And then we look at actually how do you want to draft your will? Who are you giving your inheritance to, your assets to, or who you want to inherit from you, and how? So, do you want to give your child a house, your other child a car, the monies that you're going to leave for them in trust? How do you actually plan, your absence?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because that's the touchy topic. So that's just basically, obviously, the importance of drafting or having the will. But whether or not you have a will or not, these are the same steps that happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
At number 6, we have got Bridget Dagama for sharing the most fun facts.
I think more and more we're going to incorporate artificial intelligence. I think there's no way of avoiding it, unfortunately. So your only defense is to remain current, because what's going to happen is current jobs are going to change, obviously,
Exactly.
for a new context. And if the machines are doing the work, we'll have to be the ones running the machines, and we'll need to understand how to, for instance.
Yeah.
So it's very, very incumbent upon people not to be complacent, to take ownership for their own development journeys. And I say this to people irrespective of their level in the organization. I'm not speaking to the youth only now. People at all levels.
Yeah.
You are going to become very stale very quickly if you don't have that kind of discipline and that kind of ethic around making sure you're on top of things. What's going to happen into the future is, because it's going to be technology driven, the change evolutions are going to be very quick.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to be able to learn, apply, unlearn, and then relearn something new in endless cycles, right?
Yeah.
So if you can't do that, if you don't get into that, because there are people that are so change averse that, they're just not into it. They just like, I give up. So you're going to have to be able to get into that cycle of doing things, always with an appetite to learn something new, to refresh your skills, to refresh your knowledge.
Sure. And based on your observation.
At number 5, we have Pam Xaba for the most impactful episode.
You do a lot of great work, and we've been stalking you. So we've obviously stalked you, getting to know you. And
Yes.
I think what stood out for us is your leadership qualities.
Yes.
And I think you've spoken about, collaborating as opposed to competing.
Yes.
For you, what are the skills that you implemented in your leadership approach that helped you to be or to end up where you are today?
Yes, No, that's a very great question, Bapalo, because I think leadership is broad, as we know.
True.
It's a very, very broad subject. And one cannot, hold the claim to fame to say that I'm the best leader that ever was, because we know that we are human beings, and being human beings, we are imperfect. So we have those things that we do really, really well, but then we also have our challenges. We also have our gaps where we have to learn certain things, how to be, how to show up in certain spaces. And because it's a journey, right? So along the journey, because you are human, you're also bound to make mistakes. You're also bound, to not maybe show up fully as yourself. So it's very important then to be kind to yourself and kind to others, right? So that you do not show up as a Miss Know-It-All type of a personality, because you'll never be. So I think life in general, embracing the notion of lifelong learning, it is very important. So I think for me, that's something that I really, really embrace, because specifically because I think this past 12 months for me, I think was the most challenging space really in my life, where I found myself having to start my own business.
Yes.
I found myself and not knowing, right? Because you're coming into the space and you really don't know what you don't know,
True.
right? But you know that this, I want to do 1, 2, 3. But sometimes certain things are not so obvious, you know, because I think when you are working for an organization, you've got the brand behind you, you know, it gives you leverage in terms of how you can show up. You've got the title, this big title behind you, you know, so people don't, because the title and the brand that you work for, it gives you leverage. People don't sometimes second guess the things that you say because you've got all, but the minute you are on your own, right, you are really on your own. Yeah, you know, so I think it takes a great deal of courage then, in your words, to show up and the ability to say, look, and be okay with making mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, so that's part of leadership. You know, so you get into a space where you embrace self-awareness that you look, I will make mistakes along the journey. But in you making those mistakes, you own up to them and then you keep it moving. In that way, what it does, it then people see the authentic way that you show up, the authentic way that you tell your story without so much discrediting other people. You know, whether you had a good relationship or not so good relationship with people, it doesn't matter. It's about you personally as an individual to say, if you went through a certain experience, you know, what was this experience supposed to teach me? Right? What is the lesson that I'm taking from this, rather than being a victim and say, oh, look at me, they did this to me, or whatever, you know. So, and knowing that you are only in control of yourself, you're not in control of other people and how they show up where you are concerned. So I think I'm answering your question in sort of a long-winded response, but I'm just really trying to give you, you know, examples why it's important to embrace a leadership style that says, I am human first and foremost. I do not know everything. I will make mistakes along the journey, but in doing so, I'm also okay. You know, being in spaces where I find my voice and where I can talk about the things that I'm passionate about, because then what it does, it attracts you to spaces like this, like yourself, where, where, you know, nice and wonderful people at Connect HR actually invite you to talk about your journey.
Thank you for the kind words.
Yes.
And I wanted to actually commend you for taking that leap from, you know, having a brand. And at number 4, we have Nomtandazo Mavuso for the most heartwarming episode. And with the cultures that have been developed by organizations, in your observation, what do you feel that is a great working environment, a positive one? Is it influenced by the relationship, number one, that people have with leaders? I just want to know that what is a perfect working environment?
So perfect is, I mean, there are no perfect things,
yeah.
all right? But a work environment is curated, Pabi. So just like at home, you've got your parents, you know what they believe in. They tell you, this is our vision as a family, and these are the behaviors, these are the things that we do every day. So you get to understand that, okay, this is how we do things. This is what is acceptable. This is what is not.
Yes.
And organizational culture is also curated very well. So where leaders get to set the tone about the vision, what is the purpose of this organization?
Yeah.
What are our values? So how will we make decisions? Are we a caring organization? Or, you know, what is it that is important to us? Is it innovation?
Yes.
So then you get to understand what you can do and what you can't do and where we're going. So what makes a perfect organization is a very clear purpose, clear values, clear behaviors that are accepted. it's all the processes also. As if they say this is a caring environment, I should have felt it when I got into the organization. So they live according to what they've written down. You feel it. You know, leaders play an important role because every time they engage with you, it has to feel like what they promised it is.
Yes, exactly.
Your team members, your stakeholders. When I come across somebody and I ask about a particular organization, you know, they have to say things that we said we are, which means you are being experienced the way you've written down who you are. And that's what a good kind of a culture is. It's well curated and it's never finished. Every day you work on it because there's behaviors, then we communicate, then we conflict. And how we manage all of that, it's us adding to the kind of a culture that we want to see.
I love that.
Ever going.
Number 3 is Guguletu Mpente for the most educational episode.
We have to people who don't feel like work is a safe space.
I think I would just say that you need to create a safe space for yourself, you know, because sometimes you might think it's not a safe space, but it is, only to find out that it is a safe space.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's a duty of the HR department to make people feel comfortable, to come to them, you know, with anything, be in a space where you have a sort of an open door policy. That's what I always say. I always say that I've got an open door policy. Anyone can come to me at any time, you know. I know with big organizations, it's not easy for people to go straight directly to the HR manager. They can go to an HR officer, an HR admin, but the HR department must ensure that, you know, the managers, the departmental managers, they are able to, they train them to be able to have that eye to see that, okay, something is wrong here, you know. Then an HR person can be delegated to go and, you know, fix the situation and ensure that, because it is very important for people to feel safe at work.
Yes.
Because we want people to be productive, you know. How are you going to be productive if you're at work and you're not feeling like you
like
belong here, you know, like this is a home? No, you're not going to be productive. So that's why we exist. That's why the HR exists. It's just to make sure that people at work, they are free, they feel at home, and they are able to produce. Remember, we are like a bridge between the employee and an employer.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So we just make sure that this one is satisfied, this one is satisfied. That's our job.
Yeah, I love that. I love how you answered it. And at number 2, we've got Dr. Elspeth Dixon for the most insightful episode. My question to you is, I mentioned that I'm at a point in my life where I'm very scared that I don't know what my purpose is. So is that a good or a bad thing? Or what are your thoughts on one not knowing what their purpose is in life?
Okay, powerful question, Tabala. What a wonderful question. We have chosen to focus on purpose-driven leadership because we believe the word purpose is really very important. I think your purpose is like your engine. It's what drives you and keeps you going. Having said that, many of us are on a journey to find our purpose. I don't think you wake up overnight. Some folk may do, and you do hear those stories. But I think most of us journey towards our purpose. We find it as we go through life, not an instant revelation. And so the question might then be, okay, so how do I speed up that journey? How do I facilitate that journey of finding my purpose? And I think that there are a few things that you can do. You can hear that common purpose is a huge exponent of exposure to the world around you. I think because most of us live in bubbles. Those are comfortable little bubbles. hanging out with people like us. We go to work, we have our little rhythm, we have our little routine, we do our gym thing, We've got a little pattern in our lives. And most of us don't really like that pattern to be disturbed. We're very comfortable in that pattern. But I think that being exposed to more and more breadth of what is happening around you helps you to discover who you are.
Yeah.
Years ago, in storybooks, I used to read about something called a hall of mirrors. I don't know if you've ever heard that
no,
term.
I haven't.
I've never been in one myself, but I believe that in a hall of mirrors, you would have a mirror that was made in such a way that it would make you look short and fat.
Yeah.
And then if you looked in this mirror over there, it would make you look tall and thin.
Okay, I see it.
And so I think that exposure outside of your bubble is a bit like going into a hall of mirrors where you see yourself differently and you find out things about yourself that you didn't know because you see yourself through the eyes of other people. Imagine the conversation I mentioned earlier on that senior leadership program between the Sangoma from Tembisa, who was a black Zulu woman, and the aeronautical engineer from CSR, who was a white Afrikaner male.
Yeah.
Because when they first sat down next to each other, I can still see this in my mind's eye, they didn't know what to say to each other, okay? Where do you begin a conversation? By the end of the program, they were house friends.
Wow.
Because as we meet people very different from us and find ourselves in situations different from the bubble, the normal, it stretches and deepens our thinking about who we are, what we're doing, why we're here, what interests us. So that's a route that I would really recommend on the journey of finding our purpose.
Yeah.
I think there are interesting books we can read as well that broaden horizons and books around self-development that help us explore those questions. There's coaching that we can do that helps us explore big questions as well. But I think that the world is a powerful classroom. In fact, we use that phrase often in common
world is
purpose.
a very powerful classroom.
The world or the city is the classroom. And so, those are great ways to explore. Don't get in a panic about it. It's a journey, but do be intentional and deliberate about stretching yourself. As you stretch yourself, you start to step closer to the purpose word.
Yeah. Thank you for the advice.
Number 1 on our top 10 moments is Professor Mamuketi Paking for the most motivational episode and the most viewed episode.
What is your advice to people that are struggling to cope in stressful environments, working environments?
Yeah. I mean, my advice is you've got to find another job. If you're stuck, seriously. If it's, depending on how stressful the situation is, you've got to find another job. But of course, you don't find the job tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do whilst you are
in that?
There?
Yes.
You've got to find help. I would go to a psychologist. When I was in a difficult situation, I had the support of a psychiatrist.
Okay.
And a psychologist. Because a psychologist is important to talk through things, whatever, and they help you on addressing things this way or that way. But a psychiatrist is important they can prescribe something that can help you calm down, or even because psychiatrists don't deal just with things that are quick fixes.
Yeah,
it may be that this is some medication that you have to be on for longer to calm you down, to ease your anxiety levels and so on, because that can be damaging. And the bigger thing that people don't know is that the reason why I say it's important to look for another job, it's always important to find a place of peace.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate that. Because I have learned in my last job that it doesn't matter how strong you are, your body keeps the score.
Sure.
Your body takes the trauma, especially when you're strong. You keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
Because you're strong.
Yes.
And you can handle this. And you go on an day-to-day task as if there isn't this or that. People throw bombs at you in meetings, in whatever. You keep going on. And because you are damaged, you are traumatized, you actually perpetuate the trauma. Because you're traumatized, you traumatize other people.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Because you're running meetings, but you are being traumatized, you are damaged. Of course, you are in therapy and everything, or medication, but you, first of all, you traumatize other people. Secondly, your body keeps the score. Thirdly, you are going to pay the price. I only learned of the disease that's called functional neurological disorder
Sure.
through my experience.
And what does the disease? What is the disease?
It's when your body keeps the trauma in a particular part.
Okay.
Yeah, a particular part of your body keeps the trauma, and then it starts manifesting as a particular kind of disease. In some people, it may manifest as symptoms of stroke.
Okay.
Yeah, or whatever. So for me, it was my legs.
Okay.
I mean, I was sure that by the end of 2021, I'll be on wheelchair.
Is it?
Yeah, and I used to joke about it to my colleagues to say, I mean, me being me, I'll find fun and, make the Mickey of any situation.
Yeah.
I said to them, my legs are so sore. I can feel that I'll be on wheelchair.
Sure.
And I used to say to them, the day I get onto wheelchair, everybody, each one of you will want to be on wheelchair. Because it's going to be the coolest way of being. Because I'm going to make it look so cool. You know, and I used to say, it's going to have umbrella. It's going to have a bling bling. But it's because I was trying to psych myself to the time when I'm on wheelchair. Because I just thought the pain. Sometimes, I mean, I always fought to wake up, to get out of bed in the morning. The difficult times were in the morning and at night when I sleep, because that's when the pain was intense, most intense. During the day it was, and of course it was during lockdown, we were working from home, and I would put a hot water bottle and so on. But I tell you, even after I left my previous job, let's just call it the salt mines.
Yeah.
I've given it
mines.
the salt mines.
Yeah.
Even after I decided to leave the salt mines, the pain was there. The pain kept evolving, changing. And I remember whilst I was in the job before I left, I didn't tell my psychiatrist or my psychologist, but I told my GP, my legs are sore. But you don't relate pain with trauma, with mental stress. You don't. You think these things are separate, but they are connected. You know, our lives are all connected. So I then told to my GP. My GP said, it sounds like a neurological problem, so I'll refer you to a neurologist.
Sure.
Got the top neurologist. So now I've got the top psychiatrist. Now I'm getting the top neurologist. The neurologist, they spent 2 hours testing, doing all the tests. And she said, you know, physiologically, there's nothing wrong with you. You are fine. And I said, but I'm in pain. So what do I do? And then she sat me down and she said, it's a psychosomatic problem.
Okay.
Sometimes psychological problems said, are you on therapy? So I said, yeah, I'm on therapy with the psychologist. And says, you have a psychiatrist? I said, yes. And she said, I want to talk to your psychiatrist because there's a condition called functional neurological disorder. She gave me a website. She said, read about it, educate yourself about it. And she explained your body keeps a trauma and it's to protect itself.
Okay.
You know, and some people, she said, you know, you're lucky it's legs. Some people it's this or that people, you know, sit on wheelchair for 3 years or more, and only the doctors can only treat the symptoms, but actually it's got nothing to do with the symptoms.
Sure.
So and I lived with that. I read about it. I even bought the book. There's a book actually.
Okay.
Someone who did research in countries where countries which have been ravaged by war, where people lived in conditions of war for a long period. And the title of the book is The Body Keeps the Score.
I love that.
And we don't think about it. But I promise you, I'm still healing from the pain. My right leg is fine. My left leg is whatever. I decided to go to Kilimanjaro when I left the salt mines.
Oh.
Yeah, to climb Kilimanjaro, and I summited. And part of that was to defy the pain.
Sure.
And it still never went away. I summited. But psychologically, I wanted to deal with the psychological burden that maybe I'll never walk again. That I wanted to say, I am going to walk again, despite the pain. You know, so living in stressful conditions is hard. So that's why you got surprised when I said, find another job.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you have to find another job. It's well enough for me to say.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. We loved every moment of this episode. Please stay tuned for the next episode when we have Kyle Chetty, who will be speaking of the other side of HR. See you there. Stay safe. God bless.